again, speaking of Dan Houston, we know as well that his preferred club is officially the Collingwood Football Club, as it is being reported. Again, I think that one is being said by The Age. So not only have they locked in Harry Perryman, but it looks like they're getting Dan Houston right now. And this has been a massive debate topic by a lot of people all online, that he not only picked them over Carlton, but he did over North, who, as mentioned on this channel, could have gotten the trade done way easier and desperately need a halfback as well, who probably could have paid him more. But the reality of this whole situation is Collingwood didn't have a first round pick last year. They're not going to have a first round pick this year, and they're 99% likely not going to have a first round pick next year. When you put all of those calculations in, when a team does that in the history of AFL, it has rarely ever worked. In fact, it's probably worked a couple of times. Collingwood are desperately trying to squeeze the last bit of juice out on this team to try and push for another flag. And is adding Perryman and Dan Houston enough? It's really hard to say. It's like a 50-50, because if you were to add a key defender in to replace Nathan Murphy, which they just haven't, and it's been the reason Darcy Moore sucked for a lot of last year, if they were to add another key defender in who can do that role, like a Sam Frost would have been so perfect, insanely perfect, I would be saying easy flag team, right? But I still think they get to being a probable top 4 team again, because they desperately need run-off halfback and a good ball user off there, and they're looking for another midfielder, which they're going to try Harry Perryman at. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I really don't know. What does a trade look like for Port Adelaide and Collingwood? It's also really hard to say. You got to remember, Port Adelaide looking at Richmond getting 6 and 23 for Rioli and a bunch of 3rd and 4ths. They're going to be like to Collingwood, 13 is not enough. And I think what will probably end up happening here is Collingwood will lose their future first and probably a 3rd round pick this year to get 13. And from Gold Coast, they'll obviously lose Noble in that deal as well, most likely. And then the thing is, of the matter, is that you could be losing not only that next year's first, but if you're going to be trading away pick 13 for Dan Houston, you're probably going to have to, throw in a second either this year or next year. And then obviously Joe Richards as well, who was requested a trade to Port. There is a lot to unpack in this whole situation, and I think it could get very, very messy. I still don't know if he gets traded to Collingwood. I know he wants to get there and all of this, but I still feel like North and Carlton are hanging in the background just in case this move can't get done, because this is an overly complicated move that is going to cost Collingwood 2 players and 4 picks at the end of the day just to get him and move around some other situations. And oh my God, it is so complicated. I'm stressing balls just trying to think about it. In terms of Collingwood as well, this can maybe help them a little bit. According to Mitch Cleary, it is being reported that a lack of game time for Finn McCrae has him weighing up his future. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest Finn McCrae fan. I'm not the biggest Jack McCrae fan. Once upon a time, I think Jack McCrae was a decent footballer, but again, he always had the ability to get 800 handballs a game that would go backwards. And unfortunately, Finn McCrae hasn't really found his place in the league, especially considering Collingwood were screaming for an inside midfielder last year, and Finn McCrae still couldn't get a game. It is really weird and hard to see where he goes. St Kilda, they're getting Jack McCrae. They need midfielders. Do they look at Finn McCrae? That's probably the more realistic one. And then obviously a team like Richmond, who could be looking for a player or two to bring in. Do they go and look at Finn McCrae? Again, I'm not exactly too sure. I don't think Richmond will. I think if a team does, maybe St Kilda. Richmond may look and cool off. But I think what is going to scare a lot of teams about the whole Finn McCrae situation is that there is no real value for Finn McCrae. And what I mean by there's no real value for him right now is that Collingwood are going to want an end of 2nd round pick or early 2nd round pick for Finn McCrae, right? Are teams going to give that for him? No, he hasn't played any footy. He's been in the system 3 years and he hasn't done anything. But at the end of the day is they if they traded him, would probably only get back a 3rd round pick or something like that. And honestly, for them, Finn McCrae is probably still worth more because they've already dumped 3 more seasons into him. And the reality of the situation is that we don't know if he is even as good as what a 3rd round pick is going to be. He probably would be, but at this time, Collingwood are going to be asking for an early 2nd round pick, and teams are not going to give that at all because he's done nothing to prove that he's worth that. And one more year of this, and he'll probably get delisted, and teams can just get him for free. It's one of those situations where it is so sticky that ultimately Finn McCrae is not worth a 2nd round pick to another team, but he's not worth a 3rd round pick to Collingwood, if you guys understand what I mean. It's just such a weird situation, and Elijah Sardis is kind of fitting into that right now for Essendon. Right now, his value is probably an early 2nd round pick. There's no way Essendon are going to trade him for that. He was literally a top 10 pick for them and could still develop into being a good player. But he hasn't proved that he's a top 10 pick. He hasn't proved that he's a top 20 pick yet. He's proved that he's an early 2nd round pick is what his value is. It's like what what Finn McCrae's situation is. He's proved that he's an early 3rd round pick. That's what he's proved. But again, to Collingwood, it's just not worth it. So a lot of ifs and buts. I think Finn McCrae will be back on Collingwood next year. If a team looks at him, maybe St Kilda, maybe Richmond. I don't really know who else. But it's very interesting to see how this is all going to go. Again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments section down below. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all latest sports content and news. Subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channels as well if you guys haven't already, which we'll be getting also linked in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.